Hello, this is a series of videos where I go through what happens in Affair by Chao Planoy, and we are on chapter 4. Spoiler alert to anyone who hasn't watched the show or read the book and wants to. Last chapter, we have Playing kinda mad at Juan because Juan gets asked out by this boy at the art gallery, and even though that was her intention, she can't really explain why she's feeling mad. She acts really bitchy at school the next day as a result, and her bandmates are like really annoyed with her, and when she leaves and comes back, she eavesdrops on them to find out that they actually hate her, and they're only friends with her because of her money. She gets really upset by this, of course, and she goes to find Juan to get reassured, but Juan's busy, and she comes back, and they are gonna have like a cute little sleepover. But as Juan goes to the shower, Playing sees her phone ring, and she picks it up, and it's Ek, and Ek's like, oh, it was nice to see you today, and so that's where chapter 4 begins. Of course, the nice sleepover that they had planned does not happen, because Playing gets really mad that Juan has supposedly lied to her, because she was like, oh, I'm just like out with my friends buying stationery. But according to this phone call, Ek's like, oh, nice to see you. And so she's like, wow, she went on a date with Ek, didn't she? So the chapter starts with Juan being like, Playing, why aren't you talking to me? Please talk to me. And of course, the sleepover that they planned the day before didn't happen, because as soon as Playing found out that Ek was involved with Juan's absence yesterday, she immediately storms off and doesn't talk to Juan. So it's the next morning, and they've gone to school, and Juan is talking to Playing, and Playing is ignoring her. They're at school, Playing ignores her. They come back home, Playing is ignoring her. Juan is like, oh my gosh, like, I'm about to cry. Like, what the hell did I do? What did I do something wrong? Like, why are you so mad at me? And she's like bursting into tears and crying. And Playing, of course, looking at her cry, softens a little bit, but it's still like, big girls don't cry. Like, don't cry, please. And that's the first thing that Playing has said to her since yesterday. And she decides, I'm probably still not going to talk to her. Then Juan knocks on her door for about 30 minutes before bed, and Playing ignores her. The next day, they're back at school. Playing doesn't talk to her. Juan is like desperate at this point. Playing walks outside of the school's grounds, and Juan is following her, and she's like, Playing, why aren't you talking to me? She's still crying. Playing's like, what do you think you did wrong? Juan's like, I don't know. And Playing stomping around, just trying to get some distance, and Juan's like following closely behind. Juan's like, you're not nice. And Playing's like, excuse me? And Playing is shocked because Juan has never spoken to her like this before. Juan says, you're not nice, you're not telling me why you're mad at me, I don't really know what to do. And she's crying harder and harder, and suddenly she like drops to the floor sobbing, and everyone who's on the school grounds is like looking and being like, oh my god, like what's going on? And some people are laughing, some people are pointing, and Playing is really embarrassed, right? She's like, get up, this is really embarrassing, like please don't do this. And Juan's like, what does it matter to you? Like, you know, like you don't even care, you're not talking to me. And Playing's like, oh my god, Juan, please, like just get up, like it's really hot on the floor, it's dirty. Juan's hunched on the floor, everybody's looking really concerned. Some people who know Juan kind of pass by her and like encourage her to like, you know, stand up, but she doesn't budge. And Playing is embarrassed and confused, and she's just kind of like, at this point, muttering to herself, she's like, well, you know, I'm not important to you anymore. And Juan overhears, obviously, and she's like, Playing. She gets up from crouching, and she grabs Playing's wrist gently, and she's like, why are you angry with me? And Playing's like, Then she finally decides to grab Juan's wrist and drag her to somewhere more secluded, and she's like, let's skip this class and find somewhere quiet to talk. So finally, they go to somewhere to talk it out. And Playing is secretly satisfied because she totally ignored everyone else who was trying to help her earlier because she wanted to talk to Playing. Playing is thinking about this, and she's smiling, and Juan is like, you're smiling now. And when Juan points that out, she stops smiling. So they finally get to a quiet place, and Juan's like, okay, so what happened? Why are you so angry at me? And Playing's like, you lied to me. And Juan's like, what? And Playing's like, who did you see yesterday? And she's like, Playing's like, listen, don't lie to me. I know what happened. You gotta be honest now. And Juan's like, all right, it's Ek, isn't it? You're mad about him again. And she's like, thank God this is what it's about. I thought it was deeper. And she's like, this is the reason why you're not talking to me? Playing's like, well, yeah. And also that you lied to me. I trusted you and I thought you'd tell me the truth, but no, like you went out with a boy. And Juan's like, oh my God, like that was not intentional. I ran into him by chance. And Plang's like, how is that possible? One is like, we just accidentally ran into each other. That's all. Plang's like, the world isn't so small for that to be a coincidence. Like, come on. And Plang's like, are you sure you didn't like arrange to meet? And Juan's like, are you crazy? I didn't even call him. He only calls me, and I never pick up the phone. Except for maybe that day when you took my phone and you answered it. And Plang's like, I mean, yeah, I was being nosy, but oh god, I need to change the subject because this is kind of my fault. Then Plang asks point blank, do you like him? And Juan's like, no, I don't like him. And Juan's like, I don't hate him. And Plang's like, oh, so you like him. You like that bastard. And Juan's like, I don't like him, but I don't hate him. And honestly, Plang, it's not nice to call people bastards. Good people don't do that, okay? It's not nice. And she's like, Juan, we what? Her voice is going all high-pitched. She's surprised at her own whininess, and she's trying to gather herself again. And Plang is like, you know what? Forget it. And Juan is like, hey. She looks her in the eyes, and she like touches her arm comfortingly. And Juan's eyes are filling with tears. And she's like, I don't understand you. Like, what happened? Like, why have you been in such a bad mood with me since yesterday? And Plang is like, well, you flirted with that boy. And Juan's like, what are you talking about? I didn't do anything. And Plang's like, well, if you didn't do anything, then why did he sound so hopeful on the phone? Are you planning to get a boyfriend so you can leave me and abandon me? Well, fine. If that's what you want to do, then I can be alone. And Juan's like, I'm so confused. You're being so contradictive. Like, you took me to that art gallery and showed me how to attract a guy like Ek. And I didn't choose him. He chose me. And now you're jealous. And Plang's like, jealous? And Juan's like, yeah, it seems like you're pretty jealous. And Plang's like thinking really hard. She's like, am I jealousy? Am I jealous? Why would I be jealous? And suddenly her anger kind of diffuses because she's like, am I jealous? Is it? Plang is like, what are you talking about? And Juan is there wiping her tears and calming down because she finally gets why Plang is so upset with her. So she feels a little better. And Juan is like, I get it now. You don't want me to have a boyfriend. Is that why you're upset? I think you're kind of jealous of me, Plang. And Plang is like, what kind of friends get jealous of each other? And Juan's like, why not? And Plang's like, I'm just worried about you, okay? Yeah, that's it. I'm worried. Yeah, you must be confused because I'm not jealous at all. And Juan's like, whether or not it's jealousy or worry, I'm happy. And she's smiling again because she's just happy that Plang isn't mad at her anymore. And Juan's like, you know, I realize that you're angry and you might be worried or jealous or whatever, but I couldn't sleep all night because of it. And Plang is like, well, what about the boy then? And Juan's like, nothing. I haven't even said more than 3 words to him. And Plang was like, well, how did you feel when you saw him again? And Juan's like, I don't feel anything. And Plang's like, don't you think he's handsome? And Juan's like, he's not ugly. Which, I don't know. Like, I feel like when you're struggling with compet, this is exactly the line of logic that you're working with, right? Yeah, and Juan is looking at Plang kind of smug because she can tell that Plang is jealous and she seems happy to see Plang so jealous. And Plang is trying really hard to fight looking jealous, but she is looking real jealous. And Juan's like, hee, look at you, like you're angry and jealous again. Like, it's so cute. I just kind of like seeing you worried about me like this. And then she starts kind of like being coy with Plang, kind of like resting her head on her shoulder and all that. And Plang is like, oh, I don't feel very well. And she's thinking in her head, I don't really get what's going on with me. Like, why am I so angry? Even if she did have a boyfriend, what's wrong with that? And Juan's like, listen, I get it. You don't want to be alone, but don't worry. Even if I actually have a boyfriend, you're going to be my number one always, I promise. And Plang's like, really? And Juan's like, yeah, even if I get married, have children, and have my own family or whatever, you're still gonna be number one in my heart. And Plang's like, okay, well, thank you so much. Am I really your number one? And she's smiling because she's thinking about always being Juan's number one. And Juan is like, yes, you will always be the number one in my heart. And then shortly after, School's over, they go back home, all is well, they're having dinner together, everyone's teasing Playing about her jealous episode because they are telling them about it. I guess the family all eats together like they do in the show, right? And so Juan is telling everybody, Playing's dad, Playing's mom, her mom, like, wahaha, like Playing got so jealous of me because of this boy situation. Playing's mom is laughing at Playing about how upset she gets. Playing's mom is laughing at her about how upset she got. Her mom is like, gosh, why are you so protective of your friend? Like, now she can't have a boyfriend because you won't allow it. And Playing's like, oh my god, it's not like that. Playing's like, I just don't trust men these days, okay? You should at least let me know if you want to date them. And then I'll help you, like, you know, make sure that they're good. And the dad's like, wow, you're very protective of her indeed, huh? Well, I guess you guys were born around the same time, so most of your memories are either of me, your mom, or Juan. Doesn't surprise me. But then the dad goes on to say, listen though, if you're too protective, then Juan can't have a boyfriend, and then you won't be able to have a boyfriend either. And if you don't have a boyfriend, then I guess you're gonna have to live with us for the rest of your life, and that won't be good. And they're all teasing her, and her mom picks up a magazine from a nearby shelf, and she's like, let's look through here to see who you find handsome. Ooh, what about this guy? Tiger Woods? He's so handsome. And Playing's like, oh my god, mom, like, you don't have to play along with dad's, like, shenanigans, and I don't like Tiger Woods, okay? I might as well be with Mike Tyson. And then the mom is like, wow, Playing, I didn't know you liked that boxer. Be careful though, he might hit you, and then you'd be knocked out, Playing. And then Playing's like, oh my god, mom. And she crosses her arms and she's pouting. And she says eventually, you know what, just so everyone doesn't tease me like this relentlessly, I guess I'll let Juan have a boyfriend. And then she looks at Juan, and Juan is smiling and giggling at the fact that everyone is teasing Playing about how jealous she got over this whole situation. And then she then says, and also, I guess I'll have a boyfriend too. And the mom's like, who would date you? And everyone's like laughing and laughing, which honestly, I think this is like kind of mean. Like, this would be so hurtful, but I guess Playing is so conceited and arrogant that it's fine. Playing then says out of embarrassment, she's like, excuse me, mom, there's a lot of people who would like me. Like, what about Frank? He's also rich and a friend of dad's. Wouldn't that be perfect? And everyone's like, ha ha ha, so funny. But Juan suddenly hears this, stops smiling, and then she's like, oh, yeah, I'm full, and I'm gonna go to bed. Sorry, excuse me. And Playing's like, why are you going to bed so early? Playing narrows her eyes to kind of figure out what's wrong. And she's like, are you okay? And Juan's like, yeah, I'm fine. And then she kind of like slinks away from the dining table while everyone's still having a good time. Playing obviously knows that something is wrong, and so she also excuses herself and goes to follow Juan. She knocks on Juan's door, and it takes Juan a full minute to even respond, and it feels like a really long time because Playing is very worried about something bad happening. Juan opens the door, she smiles sadly, and then Juan is like, hey, what's up? And Playing's like, what's up with you? And Juan's like, what do you mean, what's up with me? And Playing's like, well, you were looking kind of strange. Like, are you upset? Did I do something wrong? And Juan's like, no, it's nothing. You're just imagining things. And Playing's like, come on, Juan. I know you. We grew up together. I know exactly when you don't feel good. So just tell me what happened. Like, what are you thinking? What are you feeling? And Juan doesn't want to respond. So Playing's like, come on, tell me, please. And Juan's like, I don't know. I just don't feel so good. And Playing's like, are you sick? And she like touches Playing's forehead to kind of see if she's like feverish. And Playing's like, well, you're not running a fever. And Juan's like, I'm not physically sick. It's just here. It's nothing like serious, I guess. Yeah, I don't know. And Playing casually reaches to touch her on the chest, and she swats her hand away. And Juan's like, it's fine, like, I don't know. And Juan kind of tries to change the subject. She's like, oh, it's fine. They'll get bigger when I'm older, I think. And I guess she's making a joke about her boobs. And I guess she wants to divert attention from the pain in her heart by saying, like, oh, she just feels emptiness in her chest because she doesn't have boobs yet. But don't worry, they will grow bigger with time. And Playing is like, oh, you sure about that? And Juan's like, shh. And then Playing says, well, if you get a boyfriend and you get married, I guess he'll touch you there. And she's imagining it in her head, getting really sad. And Juan's like, what the fuck are you talking about, Playing? I'm just talking about my chest. And Playing's like, oh yeah, that's true. I don't know, this... And then Playing's like, well, what's in your chest? And Juan's like, I don't know, I just feel really, like, slow and sensitive. And Playing's like, why? And Juan's like, I guess I didn't like what you said about you having a boyfriend and saying that you would go out with Frank. And Playing's like, huh? And Juan says, I guess I'm jealous. And she looks at Pling and she's like, it's probably the same way that you were jealous of me today. And that's the end of the chapter. And honestly, you gotta love Juan's directness, because she knows what this is much more clearer than Pling does. I mean, I don't know about you guys, but I think Juan is much more self-aware about this situation with Pling, but Pling is just starting to realize it, right? She's assuring Pling that she will always be number one in her heart. I feel like she knows at that point already. And the fact that she can tell that Pling is jealous only goes to show that Pling is a little further away from understanding what these feelings are. I don't know. Also, it is just so funny too how they're just joking around about all this stuff when, you know, the elephant in the room is like, yeah, I think they're gay for each other, but neither of them really wants to talk about it. And Pling definitely doesn't want to admit it to herself yet. But I think Juan knows. So yeah, I don't know. But yeah, thank you so much for watching. And I'm gonna try to post as much as I can, but I feel like I keep yapping. So these videos just keep getting longer and longer. So I will try to do 2 chapters at once if I can, but if it's over 15 minutes, then I probably will just keep it to 1 chapter. But as always, I appreciate you guys watching, and I'll see you guys very soon.